The first factor that I'm going to be going over is foot and ankle structure. Now, if you're anything like me and have really flat feet, you're automatically going to be more prone to having a knee cave problem. I'll show you. So if you have little foot arch, your ankles are going to pronate like that. And when your ankle pronates, it internally rotates the tibia this way. And if you think about it, a knee cave is actually just an internal rotation of the tibia and femur. So if you have flat feet, ankle pronates, chain reaction, internally rotates the tibia and caves the knee like this. Now, a cue that I like to use to solve this is to push through the big toe, because what this will do is raise the foot arch and stop your ankle from pronating and putting it in a more neutral and stable position. And although that won't be like an end-all be-all for fixing your knee cave, it could definitely help. Another thing that can be contributing to your ankle pronation could be lack of ankle mobility. See, when your ankle is put in a stretched position, such as the bottom of the squat, if it doesn't have the proper mobility, its only option is to go in like that. And here's my favorite Achilles stretch that I like to use to correct that. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect the band to something. I have it connected to my desk post. And you're going to put it right at the crease of the ankle, stretch it out, and you're really just going to lean into it. Try to create as much pressure as possible. And while you're doing this, try to keep your heel on the ground and try to curl your toes up to your knee. So you're going to hold that for about 25 seconds-ish. So 25, 3 seconds off, and keep it there for about 3-4 times. Another reason that your knees could be caving in the squat is not the commonly accepted glute weakness, but rather glute inhibition. See, your body has a mechanism called reciprocal antagonism, which means that opposing muscles can't fire at the same time. So simply that means like you can't produce force through your tricep while you're simultaneously doing a bicep curl. And your hip flexors and glutes have an opposing relationship. And in today's society, everyone's sitting all the time. So your hip flexors get really tight in what is called tonic. And when they become tonic, they are constantly firing. And due to reciprocal antagonism, if your hip flexors are firing, your glutes can't, which could be causing your knee cave. This is my favorite hip flexor stretch that I like to use, especially after a long day of school when I'm sitting all the time or before a squat session. So what you're going to do, you're going to find something that you can like hook your foot on like that, and you're going to take a lunge position like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw your ribs down, almost try to point your hip flexor up that way, and flex your glute and really drive forward. Now, same thing with this stretch, you're going to hold it for about 25 seconds for 3 to 4 repetitions each side. Now, if you have a little bit tighter hip flexors, you can hold it for longer, and vice versa. Another thing that could be inhibiting your glutes on the squat is your psoas. Now, your psoas is a very deep abdominal muscle, and just like your hip flexors, it gets super locked up when you sit a lot, which could be inhibiting your glutes' ability to fire. I'm going to show you my favorite exercise I learned to loosen it up. I learned it from Chris Duffin. So what you're going to do is, I have a softball, but if this is the first time you're doing the movement, I highly recommend you use a baseball or a lacrosse ball, just because it's a little bit easier. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to set the ball down and find a spot about 3 inches in from your hip bone right there. That should be a very tender spot. And what you're going to do, you're going to hike this leg up at 90 degrees, and you're going to lift the leg up that's on the lacrosse ball. Make sure you're really flexing your glute and not trying to use your lower back to lift your leg up. And you're going to hold that for about 3 seconds, do about 5 repetitions. And you should really feel that in your psoas. The third and final reason I'm going to go over that could be causing your knee cave is failure to properly load the hamstrings. Now, you see this more in Olympic style squatters because they take a more high bar position and don't load their hamstrings as much, that they're notorious for having a lot of knee cave. See, when you take a more high bar position and stay more upright, at the bottom of the squat, your knees have a lot more range of motion side to side to move. But if like all power lifters, you take a more low bar position and really stick your hips back and make sure there's as much different distance between knees as possible. There's not as much room to move like this. And if you couple that with the cues of pushing through your big toe and try to turn your feet out like that, it should really keep your knees locked in a stagnant place.